Hey everyone, the latest of the daily sleepy vlogs, but only 10 more to go. Uh, it occurred to me, or I was reminded while listening to a whole bunch of podcasts where people seem to be talking about DC Comics, that there's a major DC character that I've always had no interest in, and that is the Joker. That first popped into my head. I never even realized I didn't like the Joker until there was this big hullabaloo about Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, and how Grant Morrison on a podcast said, of course, at the end of that book, Batman kills the Joker. I went and looked at people. I never read The Killing Joke. And I went online and looked at people's postings of that last page, and I didn't think he'd killed the Joker just from looking at that page. But I haven't read the whole comic. And that's the odd thing, that I haven't read the whole comic, because it comes from the heyday of Alan Moore, and I was a huge Alan Moore fan. I thought I read everything by Alan Moore, and I was shocked to realize I hadn't read The Killing Joke. And then I found myself, and then I thought, well, I ought to go run out and read The Killing Joke, but I just didn't really want to. And I realized that I have probably avoided most Batman storylines with the Joker in it. It might be that Scott Snyder's Death of the Family was the first Joker story I really read. That doesn't seem right. It feels like I must have read other Joker stories. I know the very first Batman I read was like a Batman best of the 40s through the 70s, and I'm sure there were old Golden Age Joker stories in there, and I know that I read those. I can picture the first Batman Joker story from the 40s in my head, famous cover and all. But then I kind of jumped to the Joker of the Adam West Batman, and I guess he was not my favorite villain on that show, but I also closely associated the Joker with that show, and somehow when I read comics, I just didn't want to read the Joker. And in that same volume, the one that really just goes through the very early 70s, because it was probably published in 1974 or something like that, the exciting stories in it are the last few, written by Denny O'Neil, mostly with art by Neil Adams, and they have the Man-Bat in it, and sort of horror story settings, mystery horror kind of settings that Batman comes into and solves a mystery. And Ra's al Ghul's, that Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams' Ra's al Ghul was also another early Batman I read. Did I mention the Man-Bat? Yeah. And so I always associated Batman and what I thought the cool Batman was with kind of a mystery horror element and not a clown. And maybe in general I kind of dismissed Batman's central rogues, like the Riddler and the Joker and King Tut, although I guess he was a creation of the TV show, the Mad Hatter. These kind of clowns, the clown bad guys. But in particular the Joker, I've just always avoided that. And then just sort of, it's not a big deal, but it's kind of made me think, like, what are the characters that most people think are really central that you don't really like? Another one, but a lot of people share this, is I kind of have been thinking about how I don't like Superman. Most of all, I don't like his supporting cast, Perry White, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen. They just seem lame as lame can be to me. However, just in the past month or two, I've been reading lots of the standalone, non-continuity adventures of Superman, and I've been loving them. And I realize, I love Superman, just in the right context. And I realized through the 90s, when I really wasn't reading any superhero comics, I would every now and then pick up Superman just to see what's going on now. Is it getting good somehow? I read the whole Death of Superman, and the follow-up after he was dead stuff. But I didn't love it. But I guess I keep coming back to Superman. I was remembering the very first Superman I ever bought as a kid was, it probably was the first appearance of the Terra Man, a cowboy flying from space on either a flying horse, a winged horse, or just a flying horse, with kind of these magic super science bullets that he could shoot at Superman and actually have an effect on him. And it had this amazing cover, which then the Curt Swan art inside seemed like a huge disappointment to me. It probably was Neil Adams' cover. I don't know. I don't know what issue it was, or whether it was Action or Superman or Adventures of. But so I remember loving the cover and then being so disappointed with the story. Although probably if I went back, I would have thought, I would think now it's kind of cool Curt Swan work, excuse me. Get him and Murphy Anderson confused. Was Murphy Anderson his inker or a separate Superman artist? Anyway, so I think there's something there. I think of myself as hating Superman, but I think I actually like Superman. And I didn't think of myself as hating the Joker, but now that I don't hate the Joker, but I just am not very interested in him. And I think that one reason for that is I didn't grow up on those great Bruce Timm animated Batman cartoons. I think the Joker in those and in the other really good DC animated stuff, like I just a little while ago saw the Joker in The Brave and the Bold, and he was lots of fun, really great. But that's not the picture of the Joker I had fixed in my head. I wonder if the good Joker comes out of those. And some real Batman experts would know, and I don't. Another character, I don't hate this character, but I seem to have had zero interest in this character since like 1970 something. Since before I actually started reading the character. The first Spider-Mans I ever read were drawn by Ross Andru. But then I immediately found these Marvel tales that were reprinting John Romita Spider-Mans. And I loved those John Romita Spider-Mans. And I soon made the connection. There was these old Spider-Mans that were great. The new Spider-Mans weren't any good. The rest of my Spider-Man reading career has been looking for Steve Ditko and John Romita and the short Gil Kane Spider-Man run. And just deciding, I made this mental block. I'm not interested in Spider-Man after that. And I do think in the 80s, here and there, I would dip into Spider-Man. I read some of John Romita Jr.'s first Spider-Man run. And it's all by artists. I don't remember the writers. I mean, I remember Stan Lee, of course. And then I read some of the Todd McFarlane Spider-Mans till he took over with the writing, and then I dropped that as a hot potato. But overall, I've just thought of Spider-Man as this thing in the past. And there's probably other characters like that everyone loves that I've just... It's interesting to me that I kind of create these mental blocks. You fix a character in your mind at some point, and you don't go on. So maybe I should go back and now read that Alan Moore Joker, if I can get past this block. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.